Star 101.3.
What's up, Betty Who in the house?
How you doing?
This is so exciting.
It is pretty exciting.
I instantly have hair envy.
I'm so glad. It's a little outgrown. I've been on tour, so I haven't had time to. Don't look at me, but it's
we love it.
Thank you. It's definitely like.
You have no idea how long I've been trying to grow my hair like that. I just
forever. You'd look great as a platinum blonde.
I did back when you were born.
I believe it. With the frosted tips or something.
I had the swoop.
Bet you rocked.
I had the swoop in '91. Yeah.
Whew. I bet it was a big
born in '91.
Yeah, she was. I know.
In
I had frosted tips in 2000. It was a disaster. So we'll
2000
get past
was
it.
a little. That was like past when it was okay. I think probably.
Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
How are you only 22? How did that happen? You are such an old soul.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I actually think a big part of that was probably boarding school. I went to boarding school since I was 12.
Oh, wow.
So I think that you kind of like...
I never
get
went. I
used
don't know
to-
much about it. What is something people don't know about boarding school?
The thing that boarding school actually prepared me for this life more than anything else is that I can sleep anywhere. Like a crowded room, people like a potty. I could literally find a couch or a chair and like crawl up under it and fall asleep in the middle of a crowded room. I'm
Okay.
gifted, actually.
Professional sleeper?
Professional sleeper. I wish. Are you kidding? That'd be the best.
I've fallen asleep in a gym parking lot before my workout. It was for an hour and a half, and then it was too late, so I couldn't do my workout.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
I've never
in your
felt like
car?
more of a loser ever.
You just fell asleep in your car?
I couldn't wake up. I couldn't do it.
That's awesome.
I was like, just 10 minutes. I woke up an hour and a half later, and then I had to go to my next thing.
Tell me you
I
had
don't
a
think I've ever
training.
loved you
I
more
can't
than I
believe
do
I
right
just
now.
did
Tell me you had a training session that day, please, that you missed.
I didn't miss the training session.
That would be the
Okay.
best.
I
Literally,
did
my
have
trainer would
Mexican
be
food afterwards,
so
though.
mad. That's awesome. See, this is why we're going to be friends. I love this about you.
so embarrassed.
I love this about you.
But you look great. We were just talking about, like, girls talk about weight and all this stuff, and your shows are high energy.
Yes, they are.
I want you to wear a Fitbit during your show.
I'm going to. That's a really good idea, actually, because I don't know how many calories or whatever I burned during it. I imagine it's quite a few. I definitely shed a couple pounds after being on tour consistently, just because the show is so high energy, and I'm like, it's basically just like cardio training because I'm
Right.
trying to sing while I'm jumping and
Right.
like moving around all the time. So it's some shows are harder than others. It's literally just like a workout, but not a lot of muscle resistance or anything like that, like weight resistance or anything.
I actually pulled up a tweet. I know it looked like on camera that I wasn't paying attention. It looked like I was like doing a selfie during the interview, but I pulled up my favorite tweet of yours of the last week. Betty Who says, I always feel like I'm in the way at the gym. Like, please, sir, just let me sit on my yoga mat and pretend to do push-ups for an hour in peace.
That's pretty much my entire life at the gym. This is yesterday. I tweeted this yesterday. I was at the Equinox in San Francisco, and these like
Fancy, by the way.
Oh, I've never been in.
Eucalyptus scented towels.
I've never been in before, so I went in and. The guy, I was like using a bench to do, trying to do push-ups. I'm awful at push-ups. Nobody has ever been worse in their life than I am at push-ups. So I'm trying to do these push-ups, and then like I'm alternating between push-ups and a plank. And so I have like a mat on the floor next to it while I'm doing a plank. And I literally get up from my 1 minute. It was 1 minute plank, and I look over, and some guy's already on the bench next to me. And I was like, "You weren't going to ask me if I was." Done.
Can I work in
And now
here?
I'm like too close to you, and now I feel like I'm in your way, and I have to move when really you're invading my personal space.
Right.
It wasn't very. It's kind of that's just like my entire life at the gym. I'm not like. I guess I don't look strong enough. People aren't intimidated enough by me at the gym.
Is that the goal?
I guess if I look like I can kick the crap out of you.
I don't know. You got a shoulder tat. I'm a little
I
intimidated
do.
right now.
Oh, I have a couple tattoos. Is this a
May
little
we?
edgy?
May we? I don't know. What is
I
it?
have. So this one is a Roman numeral 2. We were talking about my dad backstage. Actually, he traveled a lot when I was really young, and so one time he was going away, and he was like, "I'm gonna be back soon. I'll be back in 2 weeks, but I love you so much. Like, I won't be gone that long." And I said, because I'm an adorable 4 or 5-year-old at this
Right.
point, "I love you 2 weeks and forever."
Oh my gosh, that's
God,
so
she's
cool.
already
And so
writing
now-
lyrics.
I know.
I know, totally.
I'm a writer, didn't you know?
Right.
And so now the like saying in our family is "I love you 2 weeks and forever." So this was my first tattoo actually that I got.
I'm going to go buy a card of papyrus and put that on that and give it to my wife. And
I hope so.
I'll be a hero.
I really, really hope so.
What a great line.
Yeah, I have a couple tattoos, but this one was the first one, and funnily enough, the one where I was not as prepared for all the rest of them. I didn't really know what was going to happen, and it took so long because it's in kind of such a sensitive area. It took about 45 minutes to do,
Wow.
and which is like not that long in
Sure.
tattoo land, but still pretty long. And around 30 to 35 minutes. I hadn't eaten all day. It was like a heat wave. So there was no AC in the tattoo shop. And I was like, I don't feel so good. And I started like seizing. I like passed out and was like literally seizing. And my friend was with me. She was like, "Are you okay?" And the guy was like, "Get smelling salts." And she was like, "I don't know what's happening." It was very dramatic and like very intense. So all of this happens, and then I come to and I'm like, "What happened?" And he's like, "You passed out." And I'm like, I'm fine. Just keep. He's like, "Are you cool to keep going?" I was like, "I guess." And he gave me some like saltines and some juice, and he just kept tattooing me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Trooper.
Yeah.
Who knew you needed electrolytes while getting a tattoo?
I know. I do now. Now every tattoo I get, I like carb load before I go in.
Carbo. Any excuse to carb load, girl. I get it. I get it.
I want to talk about growing up because you were born and raised through kind of until you were about 15 in Australia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was in Sydney.
Dad's Australian, mom is American, and then you moved to Michigan.
Yes.
Now, you went to a pretty prestigious music school, yeah?
Right, I did. And it was for classical cello, which is kind of the crazy part about all of this.
I just want to know the process in that. Were they like, "Oh my God, she's a virtuoso cellist. We got to get to Michigan," or is it mom going, "No, we got to go. We got to get off this island and get out of here"?
It was kind of somewhere in between. I think everybody always kind of knew that I wasn't going to be like Yo-Yo Ma, but I was super passionate about it at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because like I say super passionate, but then if you really like get down to it, everybody else was practicing for 6 hours a day, and I was like, who wants to hang out with me? So I was like a very bad influence, and I just wanted to like socialize all the time.
Every group needs a fun person.
I was
You were
the fun one. So that was kind
You
of
were the
like
rebel cellist.
Yeah, exactly. Which is like a very weird thing at like classical music high school. It's kind of hard to be cool,
Right.
like no matter who you are. But I definitely was kind of. I knew I loved cello. I knew I wasn't as good as everybody else. So I didn't feel like I needed to prove myself because I was like, everybody here knows that I'm not the best. And like, I'm fine with that. And everyone knows I'm also not going to be a concert cellist. So let's all just like move on and not pressure me to do better because I'm never going to be as good as everybody else. And just like, let me do my thing. So I definitely like developed really good social skills in high school.
Sure.
But right when I moved over, I was going to the camp and I got recruited to the academy and the whole thing was happening and we had like, it was at the end of the camp and the school started at like 2.5 weeks after the camp finishes. So I basically had 2.5 weeks like notice to move my life from Sydney to Michigan. And I was talking to my mom about it and she was like, I'm coming with you. It was like very spur of the moment, like I'm not letting you go alone.
Now, where's your mom from?
My
Sorry.
mom's from California.
What part?
Montana, California. I spent a little bit of time growing up in Shasta.
Okay.
So like way
Yeah.
northern,
Yep.
like basically Oregon.
No, we all got family up there.
Yeah, everyone's got family
What's
in
up, Reading?
Shasta. Yeah,
What's up,
right. My
Walmart?
grandmother lives in Reading.
Right? Who
so,
doesn't?
So I definitely feel very connected to California.
Sure.
But, you know, she was like, "Oh, I'm coming with you. There's no way I'm not." And I remember she called my dad and he was like, "Absolutely not. This is crazy. We have 2 weeks to move. Like, no way." And she was like, "Well, I'm going and you can come with or not." And he was like, "Okay, I'll meet you there."
It's all fun and games till the wife throws the hammer down.
Right,
Yeah.
I know. It was an ultimatum and he took it. And
Brothers and sisters?
I have one much older brother from my mom's first marriage. He's my half brother. And so he's like still in Sydney and like living his life and he's fine.
Right.
Okay.
But it's definitely, it was very spur of the moment. And honestly, probably the best thing that could have happened to me. I was at boarding school in Sydney, all girls.
Uh-huh.
And it was intense. And I didn't love being at boarding school and being away from my family. And so it was kind of like the best of both worlds, going to boarding school and having my family move with me, because not only were they a 5-minute drive away,
Right.
but I also got like the boarding school experience where I was much more prepared for college. And now I never get to see my family because I'm always on tour and they have to come to me.
Right.
So it's kind of like prepared me to be away from home, I think, a little bit more. If I hadn't been at boarding school for like 8 years of my life, I don't know what touring would have been like. What touring would be like, because I'd just be so homesick all the time.
What is it like with your parents at your shows?
My parents are the best. It's funny because my dad's like a businessman, super like hard ass.
Right.
I always thought that he would be the person in my life who would be very like, "Oh, we got to get your finances in order." And my mom would be like yay, like Team Betty. She'd be like super like fun and like just like crying at every show. And turns out it's the absolute opposite. And my mom is like my business manager, basically. And my dad comes to my show and sings every word and is like sobbing in the front row. And I'm like, are you okay?
He's got the gold LeMay team jacket on.
Yeah,
Totally.
he's like
Betty's
very
dad.
excited. He's always very excited. Whenever they come to the shows, people are always like, are you Betty's parents? And they're like,
oh my gosh,
yes,
how
we
cute.
are.
I
They're
want your
very
dad
proud.
to make a YouTube video to you like he doesn't know you and be like, I'm your biggest fan.
He pretty much is. That's pretty much my whole life is my dad's like perpetual YouTube video dedicated to me.
How's it felt like gaining more fans and kind of establishing yourself more? What is it like?
It depends where you are, because if you're somewhere where like maybe a handful of people know who you are, there's nothing really that different about it than like where I was 2 years ago. But like definitely in New York and LA particularly, I find that I get recognized as like a very big kind of broad term because I'm like no Katy Perry. But like, you know, I'll be out to a dinner and someone at the next table will be like, just so you know, I'm like obsessed with your music and you're awesome. And I'm like, thank you so much. That's so great. So it's very kind of like low key still. But the number of people who just kind of reach out randomly throughout the day and say, by the way, I'm such a huge fan. I just want to tell you that you're awesome. It's like very cool and definitely makes everything kind of feel worth it. You're like, this is awesome. If you can say for a second, like, oh my God, that song just like got me through my last breakup. I'm like, this is why I do what I do.
I want to give you props because you're very active with your people on Twitter.
I am. I try to be super, you know, that's the whole point of social media.
If you tweet at Betty Who, you more than likely are going to get a response.
Yeah,
people are very passionate about what you're doing.
Right. I'm very good at like favoriting almost everything, except if you're mean to me, then I don't favorite it. But if, you know, everybody who's like, oh my God, I love Betty Who right now.
What in the world would somebody tweet to you that's mean?
People are just mean on the internet to be mean on the internet. It's something that you don't really take that personally.
Hey, chick, you could surf off your hair.
Right. Yeah. People are like, actually, probably the meanest thing. Like, so I'm very lucky because I don't get like aggressive Twitter hate. But the thing that kind of keeps coming back is there's this like group of people who I actually think is very funny. They keep on being like, hi, Pink. Like, we love you, Pink. And just keep being like, where did you get the inspiration to write your hit? Just give me a reason. So it's like very, people just kind of like consistently making fun of me for looking like Pink, which I'll take because I love her and I don't care.
Absolutely.
Also, I'm pretty sure Pink is like a legal midget. Because she's like tiny, isn't she? She's tiny, and I'm a giant. You just said this when you walked in.
yeah.
She could beat up
I'm
all
6'1".
three of us.
Yeah,
Are you
also,
6'1" for
also,
real?
yeah.
Can we? I want to. Hold on.
I'm going to stay here.
Hold on. Back to back. Back to back. Back to back.
I'm taller, aren't I?
Yep.
God.
Sorry.
I'm very tall.
She's taller, and then her hair adds another 2 inches.
Yes, it
Right?
does.
See?
With the hair,
The
I'm
volume.
6'3".
Back in the 90s,
with
I
heels,
would've beat you
I'm
with
like
my swoop.
6'8". I know. Well, absolutely. We should get a photo of you and put them together. I bet we looked very similar, actually.
So you okay? 15 years old, boarding school, Michigan. So now when you go home, when you go to Australia, do you become more Australian? And when you're in the U.S., are you more American? Because you don't really have an accent. You got a little bit of a touch that just seems like it has faded over the last 5 years.
Every time I'm talking to an Australian person, I become incredibly Australian.
Give it to me. Let me have it. Let's talk
it's hard.
crocodiles.
You're not Australian. I don't know. Actually, whenever I'm doing liners for radio stations, it's always like star 101.3, and everyone's
Right.
like, I love the way you say that.
Right.
No, you know, when I watch Australian television or when I talk to somebody who's Australian, I get very Australian very quickly. And my friends are always like, are you putting that on? And it's
Right.
like, no, you know, you kind of, it's definitely a weird thing because when you're 15 and moving to a new country, you don't want to be like the weirdo that everyone's like, what did you say? So you kind of adapt your accent very quickly. Well,
Sure.
I did at least because, you know, you want to be accepted, new high school, the whole thing. So for my time at Interlaken, I actually like lost my accent entirely. And then when I went back to Australia for the first time, I was like 17 or 18 since I'd been at the school. And I went home and everyone's like, you sound like a Yank. And so I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Like I am Australian. And so now I kind of have found this balance of naturally speaking, but it's definitely like, I give a pretty good Valley girl, like, you know, kind of just like committing to.
Give it to us.
Oh my God, Sarah, you should have seen this guy. He was like 6'4" and so hot. It was crazy.
Take it, Sandy.
That's good. Oh my God. We're going to do a video about ordering salsa because I like everything mild. And it's just something Valley Girl. So we always go, oh my gosh, do you have like a passion fruit salsa?
That's pretty much like my producer lives in the Valley and he also calls himself a Valley girl. Nashville. And that's pretty much every Mexican restaurant I've been to in the Valley is like, can I get the passion fruit iced tea? And then can I have, it's very like.
Do you have lychee salsa?
Right. Pretty much. I order a lot of margaritas though in the Valley.
As you should.
Good margaritas.
What about like Australian snacks or food compared to America? Is there any difference?
Yeah, the biscuits, like the cookies in Australia, are so good. It's like my mom came back from Australia a couple months ago, and we were playing a show in Nashville, and she flew straight into there to meet us and come see the show, and she brought me and my band like 8 different packets of biscuits, and it's like my favorite are Monty's and Tim Tams, and they're just like so beyond. They're so good.
Do Australians really rock Vegemite?
I love Vegemite.
Really?
And I will stick to that. I didn't like it when I was growing up, and then when I went to boarding school, everybody there was kind of like very from the like there's a lot of kids from the Outback who went to my Australian boarding school, and so
it's fermented veggie paste.
Ew.
it's like people hate
sounds like healthy pate.
people do hate it. But it's, I mean, like if you grow up on it, it's just like it's salty. It's awesome. I love it. With some on toast with butter and just a little bit. You don't spread. You don't do like the spoonful. It's not like Nutella. It's definitely like an acquired taste. Use a little bit of it, and it's awesome.